Well, good evening and welcome to Football Nights right here on Afro World View. I'm your host, Len Moleko, and plenty to talk about. There was 8, now there's 4 left. Of course, I'm talking about the MTN 8, where we saw the likes of Orlando Pirates getting knocked out, Maritzburg United getting knocked out, Free State Stars getting knocked out, and Golden Arrows also getting the boot. But without wasting any further time, my man Morana Mutupi is here. We're going to be having a chat with him. And you at home as well, if you want to join in the conversation, you can do so. The number to call is 011-542-1046. Which team was so impressive for you over the past weekend that you actually look at them and you think they are candidates who are likely, just likely, might be able to lift the first cup competition of the season? Like I said, you can share your thoughts on 011-542-1046. The man who was following the weekend's action, Morana Mutupi.
Always a pleasure.
Who was most impressive for you?
Obviously, the guys that have the most goals from this weekend.
The team that was always being hammered on
the team that we're always hammering on this show. And, I'm actually enjoying sitting in this chair today, having left last week, giving props to Kaizer Chiefs and giving them that belief and that hope that, you know what, they've got my attention.
Yeah.
I slammed them before the season started, and that was after the Shell Helix Ultra Cup. You know, that they looked out of sorts. They didn't look like a team that knew what they were doing. And I suppose one could, blame Patrick Mabedi for perhaps not knowing what to do with that team.
Yeah.
I think you can tell that Giovanni Solinas is now the man in charge, that there seems to be an energy in that team that we haven't seen for a couple of seasons. Whether they will maintain it, we don't know. Who we credit for that, and I'm talking from a player's point of view, yes, you could say Kama Biliat. Yes, you could say Pelele Ntshangase firstly getting game time and secondly being used in the position that he's detrimental in. Leo Castro is seemingly starting to find himself as well. But I think Kaizer Chiefs, whether they have what it takes now to go on and win this championship, I think it's a bit too early to tell. But they've certainly sent the message to Mamelodi Sundowns, to SuperSport United, definitely who they're going to play next in the semis, and even to Cape Town City if, let's say, City go on to beat Sundowns in the semi-finals. But I was impressed with them. There is nowhere to fault them. Perhaps outside from they could have scored more goals.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity. They were playing so well that I think they could have made it 4, 5. And I would like to see Kaizer Chiefs coming back and doing that again. Where 1-0, 2-0, it's not what they're known for. It's not. They can do better than 1-0, 2-0, and they showed it with this weekend's game. But it doesn't take away as well from what Sundowns did. I think Sundowns, I have this idea that they're not going to go past this week in the CAF Champions League. I feel like their journey is coming to an end, and if that's the case, what better way to remind the country that you're still Mamelodi Sundowns than to win the MTN 8. Perhaps obviously we know that Pitso Mosimane would rather get continental silverware, but with the way they've been performing this year, which is no fault of their own, they've been doing this for 5 years straight with no rest. That it's not going to happen for them this time around. I'm very much open.
But they look like they've got a very solid team
in
terms of conquering different competitions. Coach Pitso Mosimane was actually talking about some of the players that are gonna playing in the MTN 8 and those that are going out to Casablanca. It's probably not going to be the same squad of players that would have played in the MTN 8. Surely a man who speaks like that is a man who knows that I am working with depth here.
He knows that he has depth, and he knows that he has players that are capable of still rescuing this campaign for them. I would very much want Mamelodi Sundowns to rescue this. I want Sundowns to get a second star. I want South African football to be respected again. And right now, the only team that is capable of bringing that back for us, as they've been doing for the last couple of years, is Sundowns. But there just seems to be everything working against them in terms of the permutations of the CAF Champions League, where certain results must still go their way. So yes, it's still very much in their hands, and that they can go out there and beat Wydad Casablanca, and then they can go out and beat Horoya as well, and they will qualify for the quarterfinals. But other results must also go their way. And that's the issue that I have with their campaign, is that it's not entirely in their hands. They still control it, but it's not entirely in their hands. Nevertheless, they still do have that depth, and I would like them to prove me wrong and go out there and win the CAF Champions League, or even make it to the semi-finals, or even the final. But if it doesn't happen, if they don't go beyond this Friday's game, they still have the MTN 8, which Pito Musimani, as much as he says, I've won this competition before, back in the 1920s with SuperSport United, he still hasn't won it with the one team that he's dominated the continent with, you know. So it would be interesting to see if Sundowns will actually do better than 2016, where they lost to Wits in the final, and actually go and lift the silverware. But all of the teams in the semi-final right now.
And that's a conversation I was going to get into. You've got a SuperSport United team that, not really convincing, but they were able to get a result against a team that finished second last season. And you sit back and you say, maybe they just needed to taste victory to want to have victory again. And they're playing against a Chiefs team that's also still sort of like gelling together. Do you see SuperSport United going to the final in this one, or is Chiefs going to be too strong?
This is a cup competition. SuperSport are the defending champions. You never know what's going to happen. Cape Town City made it to the final last year. They could make it to the final again. But yes, Chiefs just looks strong, you know, and not just on paper, but in their performances since the start of the season. It really is a game of two legs. And for me, I envision the dream final of Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs, and purely because both those teams start away, you know, and you go away, the very worst is that you get a draw, and then you bring them back home. And we saw with what Kaizer Chiefs did in their own backyard against Free State Stars, you just clap them. Mamelodi Sundowns and Atteridgeville are just untouchable. So it's going to be difficult for Cape Town City, if they don't convincingly win in Cape Town, for them to come back and think they're going to do anything to Sundowns and Atteridgeville. The same is going to go for SuperSport United, where they were taken to the 120th minute by Orlando Pirates, that they can't convince me.
We can argue that they took Pirates to 120 minutes, because going into that game, one would have argued that Orlando Pirates were the favorites.
Definitely, definitely. And hence, that goes back to my point to say that this is a cup competition. SuperSport can shock everybody. SuperSport can go meet Mamelodi Sundowns in the final and drop 3 on them, which is what Wits went and did to the eventual continental champions of Mamelodi Sundowns. Anything can happen. But if we look at the teams on paper, and then we look at the teams and how they've started the season, Kaizer Chiefs, you know, taking away the loss to Wits, you know, they look like a team that is now worth, I suppose respect is a big word, but it's worth our attention.
Can we look at something? You mentioned last week that Free State Stars coach Luka Emael has a certain demeanor about him, and he needs to be brought back down to earth, as it were. And do you think he might have taken Chiefs for granted ahead of that game?
I think he's taken all his opposition so far this season for granted. I'm still saying that Luka Emael just has a sense of arrogance about him that is proving to be detrimental to Free State Stars. You know, you could blame Free State's performances on, you know, some losses of players, Siphelele Mthembu, for example, but the coach, you know, the buck always stops with the coach. And if the coach can't walk into the dressing room and make his players feel like, you know what, you guys went and won the Nedbank Cup. That was just a couple of months ago. Nothing much has changed. I'm still your coach. I haven't left you, despite what people kept on saying in the media, that I'll most likely will go. His this demeanor, as you mentioned, is just, it's proving, for me at least, to be problematic. And it's going to take Free State Stars quite some time this season to start realizing that they're going to be in trouble, you know. And I'm still believing that they're going to end up in the bottom half of the log. They're clearly not doing anything in the cup competitions. They haven't done much in the start of their season as well. So I think Luka Emael needs to look at himself and accept that right now he's the problem. He needs to come up with fresh ideas, because the Free State Stars that won the Nedbank Cup has quickly been found out. Maritzburg United as well is seemingly found out. I still maintain that Fadlu Davids is an unpredictable coach, and that he's just having a tough start to the season, as most teams do. But Free State Stars, I think, is just, the coach needs to look at himself and realize that he's been quickly found out, and that nobody wants to take a chance on a team like Free State Stars because they didn't see them do what they did last season, and look where they ended up. So look at Mael, look at yourself, and realize that you need to change something. You need to come back down to earth and remember that you're not a Pito Musiman. You're not a Pito Musiman. You're still a Luka Mael that must prove himself beyond the Nedbank Cup. Show the country that the Nedbank Cup wasn't a fluke. Show the country
that you're not a Gavin Hunt.
You're not a Gavin Hunt either. Show the country that you can be a Gavin Hunt and you can be a Pito Musiman and that you can go and repeat top 6 and the Nedbank Cup title from last season. But at the moment, I don't believe in him, and I'm weekly getting proven right that he is the problem.
All right. One Orlando Pirates at Orlando Stadium, they literally gave the game away to SuperSport United.
They did. Some of the problems that they were experiencing last season are still showing themselves in the sense that they're struggling to put a game away. They know how to score.
And they've got a finishing coach.
They've got a finishing coach. They've got strikers that I don't even think need a finishing coach. Justin Shonga is incredible. The Zambian duo of Shonga and Mulenga are just amazing. You know, I'm tipping Augustine Mulenga to be one of the top goal scorers this season. And I'm glad that he's already hit the mark. It may be in a cup competition, but I'm glad that he's starting to realize the Augustine Mulenga that he was towards the end of last season. You know, they're going forward. Incredible talent. They will score 4 goals, but they will concede 5. And that's the problem I have, is that there seems to be a disconnect at the back, from goalkeeper to defenders to the defensive midfield. It's 2 extremes. You've got an understanding going forward, an attack that seems to be telepathic, and then you've got a defense that just doesn't seem to understand each other or know what they must do when they're together. So I'm hoping that they too, you know, at least for the sake of great football in South Africa, that they too start finding their rhythm from back to front, and that we start seeing much better football than what we're seeing now. They're not terrible. They're just not the kind of team that right now can replicate second finish and potentially even win the league or even get any silverware this season.
And we look at the position that they find themselves in. Well, they haven't done bad. They were able to beat Chippa United, even though Chippa were winning their way into the game in the second half. They drew against Highlands Park, and they lost now against SuperSport United. Look at a Sundowns, who are yet to lose a game. A Kaizer Chiefs, yes, they've lost. When we look at their peers in the league, we can argue that Pirates have done worse than the others.
They have done worse than the others, you know, but it's also that thing of, because they haven't played outside of SuperSport United, and then this week on Wednesday it'll be Wits. I think we will properly know how bad or how fair the situation at Pirates is when they take on a Wits side that's beaming. They don't have an MTN 8 that they need to be worrying themselves about. They're sitting 2 for 2 in the league with 6 goals. So we will know, especially, and it's happening at Orlando as well. So we will know on Wednesday just how far Pirates is from Mamelodi Sundowns.
If they can do 3 at FNB Stadium, Orlando is just around the corner. Surely they can do it there too.
I think they can. You know, they can. But whether or not they will, we don't know. We don't know at the moment just how much Orlando Pirates can rise to the occasion of playing against a really strong team.
But Gavin Hunt does not have that much pressure going for him because, yes, he's coaching a big team in Bidvest. They won the league 2 seasons ago, and they didn't do that well last season, and he wants to do well.
He does, but I think so does Micho. You know, so does Micho, and you talk about.
But at the back of a defeat against SuperSport United, at the back of a draw, at the back of a lucky win against Chippa United, you sort of like go into a game against Vet sort of like jittery. If you are Pirates.
Honestly, they probably would, but they shouldn't. Because I go back to the thing of where they need the talent, they have it. They can score against Wits. Most likely they will score. I don't think it's going to be a goalless draw. I don't think if we do see goalless draws involving Pirates, it'll be 1 or 2 matches. You know, those guys know how to score now. That much Micho has managed to change. Yeah. The problem is at the back. And it's the guys at the back that need to rise to the occasion. Because if they can rise to the occasion and manage to shut down the Zukamanjas, you know, the Lehonolo Majoros up front, if you can shut those guys down, the guys in front know what they must do. You know, so it's this point that I'm trying to say is that we will know just how far Pirates is in terms of a team that can contend for silverware. If they don't rise to the occasion, then there's something for Pirates fans to be worried about. But I think a match that big against a team that's firing on all cylinders at the moment is exactly what Pirates need to just wake them up a bit and remind them that you were a title contender last year. You now have made sure that you've thrown your bones on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, you've played your deck to say that now you're going for the titles. So if now you're going for the titles, you need to start playing like a team that is. Up front, you have what it takes.
Yeah.
At the back, not convincing.
And one Kaizer Chiefs going away to Baroka.
Hey, Baroka is a problem. Baroka won last week. Yeah, they lost, you know, the Limpopo derby in the opening game, but they won last week
Against a Cape Town City team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that then it makes it unpredictable what tomorrow is going to be like. They play well when they play at home.
But who does momentum favor in this regard? Because you've got a Kaizer Chiefs team that's fresh from, we just wiped the floors with Free State Stars. Baroka, yes, they won during the week, but they've had the weekend to rest. Who does momentum favor in this regard going into the game tomorrow?
I think both of them. You know, Baroka are rested, coming off the back of a league victory, the first one
And
for
Chiefs
the
need
season.
to stress, they still need to travel to Polokwane.
It may not, I mean, it's not too far, so that shouldn't be a problem for them. But I think momentum should favor both of them. Both of them should go in there thinking that, you know, obviously in the sense of underdog and favorite, the bigger team, you know, the better team, the Kaizer Chiefs are the favorites in that sense. But in terms of momentum, both of them should go in there with the momentum, which is what should make it an interesting game, is that they're both coming off very convincing victories. Kaizer Chiefs not necessarily against a strong team, but Baroka against a strong team. But Kaizer Chiefs, the mere fact that they managed to drop 3 goals in a cup match.
But this is a team that we argue is the one that helped fire Steve Kompela last season.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's gotten a bit of its tweaks
Yeah.
here or there, necessary tweaks, you know, and you're starting to see players like Zuma, you know, showing, you know, what he can do. Again, I go back to Spelele Nchangas, who I feel is coming into his element. You've got Kama Billiard, who still has a lot to prove. You've got Leonardo Castro now starting to settle in, having, you know, needed a couple of months.
So you saying that Nchanga said Chiefs now is probably the one that we saw, not even at Baroka, because I don't even think he got that much game time at Black Leopards.
The one we're seeing now may not be on that level yet, but the one we're seeing now is the one I think that Kaizer Chiefs went after and should have gone after when he was still at Black Leopards. He's the one that started exciting people, the one that got himself into Shakes Mashapa's Bafana Bafana team. That's the one we're potentially going to see this season. And that's what makes this game tomorrow exciting, is that Spelele is coming up against his former team. You know, Billiard is starting to score, Castro starting to score. You know, Parker, he's surprising me. You know, his performances may not be resulting in goals, but his involvement in the games are being positive. You know, it's very positive. So it really is going to be interesting how tomorrow's game pans out. But it too, I think, is not going to be a game without goals.
Something interesting with regards to Kaizer Chiefs and Baroka. Baroka have always somehow found a way to bridge the Kaizer Chiefs defense, especially when Matoho is there. Are they sitting down and thinking, they're coming here, we know how to work with their backline?
I think they also, Kaizer Chiefs, have a backline that is worrisome. You know, Matoho he's lost the Matoho we used to know. You know, and he's struggling to get it back. You know, his confidence blow is massive. And then you've got Daniel Cardoso, who has never really been capable of holding the fort.
Yeah.
With Matoho having, you know, lost his way. Lorenzo Godinho was able to do that. When Matoho wasn't doing well, Lorenzo Godinho stood up and took responsibility. Daniel Cardoso struggling to get into that groove. So their defense as well, it worries me a bit.
Yeah.
But of course, they've got the best goalkeeper in the country who can make it seem as though that defense is, you know, is not as bad as it is. So as much as Baroka can breach that defense, it just needs to be a thing of Kaizer Chiefs must score first. And they potentially must score 2 goals. Take the wind out of Baroka's sails. And yes, Baroka might come back and score a consolation goal because they, you know, they're a kind of team that you can score 3 goals against them. They will want to score still,
Yeah.
you know. But I think Kaizer Chiefs must, for their own confidence at least in tomorrow's game, they have to score first. Because we saw Leonardo Castro's goal against Free State Stars in this weekend's game. As soon as that goal went in, you saw Kama Billiat now starting to step up. You saw the beautiful passes coming from Jangase. You saw rhythm in that Kaizer Chiefs team. So I think they need to score first. They need to not allow the fact that it could go for 20, 25, 30 minutes before they find themselves, leading and allow that to get them down. They should just, what they did against Free State Stars, they must just go there and do it against Baroka. And Baroka as well. What they did against Cape Town City, go there and do it against Kaizer Chiefs, because you're even in your own backyard. So again, it's going to be an interesting game with goals, but momentum, it's equal, it's shared.
The interesting thing is there hasn't actually been a goalless game since the start of the season.
I mean, it's only been a couple of games, but yes, there's a positive to talk about. It's the sense that teams realize that you want to win games, you have to score goals. You want to not lose games, you will have to score. But there must be goals in the game. You can't just go there and think that anything will happen by finishing in a goalless draw. So it's positive to see, but
still early days.
It's still very much
early days. Now, matters of national importance. Sundowns, we sort of touched on them earlier on. I heard the way you speak. It feels like you think that it's the end of the road for them.
And again, not because of their own failures or what they're not going to do.
It's all the other things that they don't have power over.
All the other things they have no control over.
If they win their 2 remaining games, they should go through, given goal difference or head-to-head works in their favor.
Very true. But I think Horoya and AS Togoport, especially AS Togoport,
the whipping boys of the group,
they are the ones that are not going to make it out of this group anyway.
Yeah.
But the match they played against Sundowns in Togo tells you that they are the guys that are just there to ruin the party. Horoya know that they have a chance of qualifying possibly behind Wydad Casablanca. And they too for them, a draw could be enough, because then they will also go and fight for a draw against Sundowns. So Horoya and Togoport, for me, is where the problem is going to be. I have all the belief.
Yes, they are safe, but Sundowns can still spoil their party.
They can also spoil their party, and that's where Friday needs to come in. They must do that on Friday, and they have to go out there and put up a convincing performance. I believe that they can, and I believe that they can go do it in Morocco.
A lot of people are saying there's no Tau, there's no Billiard. Can Sundowns still be as lethal as we know Sundowns to have been in the past couple of seasons?
If people believe that the absence of Tau and Billiard is probably the end of Mamelodi Sundowns, then they clearly have not been watching Spusiso Vilakazi. Spusiso Vilakazi had to leave the space for Tau to be the superstar.
Yeah.
It's his time now.
Serino
had to leave the space for Vilakazi and Tau and Mshishi to be the superstars. It's his time now. Spusiso Vilakazi is playing like the guy that is taking the responsibility to lead that team. Mshishi has always been that guy.
It's always been.
Yeah, you can rely on him to show up from time to time. Serino as well. So having Tau not there, it shouldn't matter. Brocky is there. He is burning, wanting to show people that him leaving SuperSport for Mamelodi Sundowns wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
Yes, he hasn't scored, but it's coming. And even if he doesn't score, his involvement in allowing the likes of Spusiso Vilakazi to shine is important. So there's still a whole lot of firepower in that Sundowns team.
And you look at that Sundowns team, I mean, they are still willing to let Zachary go out on loan again. That must say something about the level of depth they have.
Considering the performances that Zachary was showing for Ajax Cape Town.
Yes.
That you say, it speaks to the depth in that team. So no Tau, no Billiard. Billiard was not even in that team for much of the season last season. So his absence actually isn't that heavy as is Tau's absence. But Pitso Mosimane knows how to make a team work. He lost Bongani Zumu. He's been losing players, and he's still been outperforming everybody else.
Quick one, because we are out of time. I just need a prediction. How is Sundowns going to do in Casablanca?
Honestly, I give them a 2-1 victory.
All right. Marana Mutupi, I'm just going to leave it there. We're not going to go any further into it because you have. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and joining us on the show. You at home as well, thank you very much for joining us right here on Afro World View Channel 405. This has been Football Nights. My name is Len Moleko. I will see you again, same time, same place, right here. Till then, ciao, ciao.